All right, friends, welcome. My name is Stephen Cady, for those who don't know me. I will hopefully not say much today, but you never know. But at the very least, I want to, at the very top of this, for those who are watching from home, if you go to slido.com, and we should have a link to this up on the web here, or up on the screen. There's both a QR code, but also if you go to slido.com and you enter, there's a place to put the hashtag, and just write ASB, that is like the short piece of Asbury, ASB governance. You should be able to get into this and ask questions that we will see. There is a little bit of a delay between what we have going on right here in this space and those who at home. It can be anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes, so we recognize that we may have to just wait for a moment as we're trying to get and understand questions. But we'll do our very best to answer the questions that are up here. But in that spirit, and in the spirit of grace, why don't we pause before I turn it over to Val Benjamin for a word of prayer. Open my eyes that I may see visions of truth thou hast for me. Open my heart. In this moment, gracious God, we ask a blessing, that you be upon us, that you give us wisdom, that you give us courage, that you give us grace, that you remind us of what this last year and a half has been like, and that you help us find our way towards the mission and the vision that you have set before us. I give you thanks for each of the people who are sitting up here, for the ways that they have given so much of themselves in order to help make this church better, and for all the people sitting in the pews and on their couches at home and wherever they happen to be, that you might continue to bless them as you have blessed us through them. Remind us of what it means to be disciples of Jesus Christ, and to keep that in front of us as we find our way towards the kingdom you promise. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, you're good.
Hello, friends.
Oh, that's true.
Hello, friend. Oh, wow. As Stephen has said, my name is Valerie Benjamin. I am so pleased to be with you here in the church, as well as with you at home. As Stephen said, wherever you are, we are really looking forward. I'm speaking for the governance board now. We're really looking forward for the opportunity to bring some of the questions and dialogue that has been happening with individual members of the governing board, as well as questions that we've had coming through our new website, feedback on our area of the website. We want to make sure that we are obviously making sure that we have a chance for community dialogue. And so this is the first of what we are hoping will be periodic discussions that we'll have with any congregants who are interested in the workings of the governance board. At this point, we're planning on meeting till 1:30. But I'm sure that everybody has a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts, and a lot of perspectives, so I do want to get through it. One of the things that I wanted to do is obviously introduce myself, Valerie Benjamin. I chair the governance board and have since January of this year. And then I'd like to turn it over to my colleagues to introduce themselves. I think most of you know them already, but also in addition to who they are, the committee that they are involved with as a part of their role as a governance board member. So I will turn to the lovely lady to my left.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angie Birch. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee, and the governing board. I function as the treasurer of the governing board.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ike Jordan, and happy to be serving also as a part of the Outreach Committee liaison for the governing board.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Stankaitis. I'm the chair for the Pastor-Parish Relations Committee. That's the successor committee to what was previously called the SPRC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chuck Hanrahan. I chair the Property Stewardship Committee. This is the group that looks after all the buildings and assets of the church.
Good morning. I'm Beth Wilkins. I'm the liaison with the Investment Committee.
Great. Now that we all know each other, let's get to the topics at hand. One of the things that we had wanted to do was make sure that we were embracing technology as a way to keep everyone informed on what was going on throughout the life of the church. So this is no different. We are going to be embracing Slido technology to help understand what questions are coming up from those at home, and then we can also take questions from the floor. So I'm looking over at Sarah Brubaker. Hi, Sarah, and Sarah's done a wonderful job, by the way. You know, I really do want to acknowledge the entire site that we have put up on governance is really through the work that Sarah has done for us in terms of the committee reports, the profiles, the policy book, the frequently asked questions that we continue to update, our mailbox. All of that is really her very good effort. So thank you, Sarah. Having said that, what should I be looking at in terms of a Slido question? I cannot see that. even with my
So we can see some of it.
I cannot see that.
Here, I'll read it from there. My screen.
Okay.
So I'm going to try, because there's people at home, it's going to be tempting to want to just speak so we can hear here, but we're going to all have to keep our mic on. So this is from Ruth Vanderlinden. There are people in our congregation who do not use technology at all or who are reluctant to use new programs and capabilities. How are they included?
Thank you, Dave. And welcome, Ruth. So nice to hear from you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Hi, Ruth.
Here you are. Now I'm seeing you, actually. Hello. So we are very mindful of that. So we've addressed that in the frequently asked questions. One of the things that Stephen and I wanted to do as we really were rolling out the first iteration of our church website was make sure that we accommodated people who like all sorts of different types of information. And so while the bulk of our folks have indicated that they do prefer electronic communications, there are still folks for whom that is not reasonable or practical. So we did send out a letter to everyone's homes in the congregation. I believe that there is also the ability to call into the church and ask for anything that is published in the bulletin or anything that you see on the website to be printed and sent to you at home. So there is the opportunity to receive those via any form of paper communication that you would like to do. So that's what we're committed to. And then also, importantly, the ability for dialogue as well. I have also given my personal cell phone number to anyone in the congregation who has reached out that have specific questions or more nuanced concerns that they would like to discuss with me. So I am available at any point for a voice-to-voice conversation, for a face-to-face conversation. I'm happy to have coffee with people. And I know that every one of the members of the governance board have extended that offer to congregants as well.
The next question we have is, again, I'm having trouble sometimes with my iPad. But given all the new practices we have adopted in the last 19 months, this is from Barb Elting, which practices do you anticipate will become a part of our new normal? We addressed some of this in the frequently asked questions because it was a great question. We can address more. I'm happy to, or you, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to speak for all of my colleagues here, and feel free to jump in. But one thing I think we've all learned in every facet of our lives, whether it's our spiritual life, our academic life, our work life, our family life, is that this pandemic seems to have tricks up its sleeve every couple of months. So there are things that we can anticipate, that we can think might be likely in terms of what the new normal might encompass, but as we learned at the beginning of the summer, that's not always the case, right? And we have to be flexible, and we have to make sure that we are keeping up to speed on the science and the guidance, and that we're following it to the best of our ability so that we can protect the health and safety of all of our community. At this point, what we do think we know is that there will be some component in the new normal of people who will feel comfortable coming back here and people who value the opportunity to worship and be in community in person. I am one of those people. I get a whole lot more out of being with you all than necessarily the virtual formats, but that's not for everybody. And indeed, there are folks who have become a part of our community who, for geographic reasons, may never be able to come into this sanctuary and still are a vibrant part of what it is that we're doing here at Asbury First United Methodist. So we're going to try to continue to do the best practices that we have done to date, to leverage technology and to make sure that we're speaking to all of our audiences. And I feel like, Stephen, there's probably more that you can add to that.
Sure.
You don't have to. I just.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think the name of the game, as Val put out, let me step into the camera. Yeah, the name of the game, as Val put out there, was just a recognition that we've had to adapt in ways that we've never would have thought of before, right? The monitors that are up right now. I was against those. I wrote an entire dissertation about why it's not necessary, except that when the world changed, we had to change as well, right? We had to recognize that we need a way to connect with people that are not physically present with us and to honor them as a part of this congregation, because the truth is we are something different than we were 19 months ago. And that's a good thing, and we trust that the Spirit continues to be at work, and God bless us as we try and find our way forward. I want to give some time for questions out here in the congregation. Kathy?
If you wouldn't mind just saying who you are as well, so everyone here and everyone at home can understand who's speaking.
Sure. My name is Catherine Brock, known as Kathy. I have a question, if you bear with me just a minute. When I was a teenager, I understood what started World War II. I said to my mother, what started the Korean conflict? She said, I don't know. I said, but Mom, you lived through it. Now I find that I have lived through all this change here at Asbury, and I still need clarity. Stephen has talked about this schism with our church. I don't know if it ever happened or not. He talked about the new norm a few weeks ago. I just want to know what the new norm is. We have a governance board. Have we achieved going to the other side and being away from, I guess, the National Methodist Church? Does that make sense?
Sure.
Does that help you?
If I'm hearing your question right, it's about, given the changes in the denomination right now, where do they currently stand, right? So you are absolutely right. In 2020, certainly in 2019, but especially at the beginning of 2020, we were anticipating having a May General Conference, which is the only body that can speak on behalf of the United Methodist denomination. That, because of COVID, was delayed a year first. That was supposed to happen August, like 3 months ago, and then had to be delayed again to August of 2022. So it'd start August of 2022, going into the beginning of September that time. Reverend Rachel DuPont is also a General Conference delegate, and so she can answer those questions as well. But the truth is, it's in a holding pattern. I'm going to a conference this week that is, the whole purpose is to meet with other ministers of the 400 largest United Methodist churches that are intended to stay in the denomination, to do some planning and to some advocacy work on what we will look like moving forward. But the truth is, you haven't missed anything because nothing has actually happened as it comes to that.
Would you say that what we're doing right now is probably where we'll be in the future? Or,
I'm not sure that I understand the question.
Well, we've had to go through some changes, yes, because of the pandemic.
Sure.
But we've also gone through some changes with the board and such. Is that your take on what you think we're going to be doing in the future?
To be honest, it is really hard to know how to plan even next week, given the changing realities of the world right now. So I can say, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the governing board, but I know that they would probably agree that our best guess and our best hope right now is to keep the mission and vision of the church in front of us and keep responding as best as we possibly can to the changing dynamics.
Thank Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I see a question that's on here from Lori Kennedy. Hold on a second. Can our non-technological adept members just ask for all the weekly communications in writing? Then they miss nothing. Yes. That's in the frequently asked questions as well. But as we sent the letter home, and certainly as anybody called, we're very happy and will continue to send out information to those who request it in writing.
Yeah, so the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
Anything that's available via electronic means can also be shipped to your home if you're...
Hold on one second.
I can't hear you, Lori.
We have to make sure that we can hear what you're saying. What? No, I know we can hear you in here, but those who are at home, for those that are technologically adept, here.
It was really just a follow-up question, because what I heard you say was that people can just call and they can get information. The problem is if you're not connected to begin with, you don't even know what you're missing. So it was just if someone who doesn't have email can just contact the church and say, please don't trust that I'm getting anything, send it all to me. And then everything going forward will be there. And what I just heard you say was yes, and that was the answer I needed. Thank you.
That's how it's been working. Peggy Lyons and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Some others have raised that very similar concern. And as we've done throughout the pandemic, when we've heard that there are those who may lack the technological means to receive information, we're sending them out to them.
I heard you mention my name, Stephen.
I did. Nice to see you.
Here I am.
Ask and you shall receive.
Actually, I sent this question in by email, but I didn't see it appear in the questions that were listed in the handout. So I'm going to repeat it here. Although you have dealt with it to some certain extent, I think it's important enough to hear again. So I'm reading this to you. It has been nearly 2 years since those, an estimated 100 or more Asbury members who do not have access to electronic technology have received information or communication from the church, since nothing has been printed and sent to them by the U.S. postal mail. The question is when and how this deficiency will be corrected, as we do not even know how many people are in this uninformed category. It would seem that this data should be routinely obtained and maintained by the church and used to regularly communicate with these individuals in order for Asbury Church to be a truly inclusive community. Please advise how and when this might occur.
So this seems like a variation on the theme of paper communications that we've addressed a couple of different ways. If I can understand what it is that you're asking for is, do we know the folks who want to be communicated with through paper means? And I believe that that is the case for people who have called and said, hello, I would like to be communicated with through paper means. I believe everyone is comfortable calling into the church. I know, Stephen, you want to say something. I think the other thing is, we have started communicating to the entire congregation as a governance board. We obviously need to do more of that, and we are continuing to discern, how we achieve the goals of both people who say that electronic media is first and foremost the way that they would like to receive messages, while still accommodating the folks for whom that is not an acceptable channel. And Stephen, I know you want to say something.
I just want to point out that the letter that went home to every single person in our database, everybody got it. If we have their mailing address, they all got it. Whether they read it is another question, but everybody received it. And in it, it named both the challenge, this particular challenge that Peggy, you have raised and others have raised and that we care about, and named a mechanism by which people could make sure that their names were added to that list if they're not receiving things. So it said it in the letter, it went to everybody, and we'll do our best to continue to let people know in those ways. But certainly everybody who would like information via mail can get it via mail.
Do we have any other questions that have come through Slido, Sarah?
I don't see any.
Okay, any other questions from the floor?
Maybe I shouldn't ask this question, but I'm a person who loves numbers. I don't know why, but I just do. I'm interested to know in how successful the new system is. Pastor every Sunday says 450, 550. I remember one Sunday he mentioned something like, I think it's when we first started, 1,300 people were signing in. How has anybody done an analysis as to how many are regular attenders here versus the broader United States and the world? How many would normally be here that are watching, like I watched last Sunday on my computer? I'm wondering, has there been an analysis of that? Can you even tell when we sign in?
So I do know that our technology committee every week tracks the number of people who are watching online, and obviously those who are here, we track you if you sign in. If you don't sign in on either one, it's a little harder to track you. But for those watching online, we have their IP addresses, so we do know who is watching and who is not, even if we don't know a name. So we do watch the trends on that. So from week to week, we know how many people are watching live stream, and obviously we get a count of how many people are here as well. So that is watched. The trends are watched.
Yeah, that's a great thing. We'd be happy to share that. The one thing that we're not able to get, and what's changed about this dynamic in this new world, is whereas before we could say, oh, I see Chris, or I see Mary Lynn, or I see whomever it is that we see. In the virtual world, we don't know how many people are behind each device. We don't know their names, but we can tell regions of the country, regions of the world, which is how I'm able to give that report on Sunday mornings. So it's a little different, but absolutely, we'd be happy to share that because it's really fascinating data. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Dave Kennedy. Along that line, how many new contributors have we found through the people that are participating with us from outside of Rochester? And approximately how much has that population contributed in the last 12 months?
I don't have an answer.
I don't think we have a ready answer to that specific question, Dave, but we can certainly look to get that answer and get it out to you. Oh, and a follow-up.
Oh, okay.
I have a second question. Again, it's Dave Kennedy. I wanted to thank you very much for the recent communications, which using generalities have described some of what the governing board has been doing since its formation in January. I, however, would like more specific information about the issues, the topics of discussion, the proposals, the decisions, and the actions of the board and its committees as well. Information that ordinarily would have been documented in communications to the congregation or in the minutes of those meetings. In May, as you guys know, I was denied access to the minutes of the meeting, and I was told that the meetings of the church council were not open to the congregation. I'm pleased that since that time you've realized that the discipline requires the openness that you've recently recommitted to in the FAQ document. In that spirit, I ask how I or others can obtain copies of the meeting minutes from all of the meetings that the governing board has held this year, as well as the Property Stewardship Committee and the Finance Committee.
I'm happy to address that, Dave, and thank you for the many months that you've asked that question. At this point, and you and I have discussed this, it has not been our past practice to publish the meeting minutes of either committees or the trustees. What we have committed to doing, and again, it's not just that it hasn't been our past practice, that's not a common practice of any board of directors. So we will not be providing you or any other member of the congregation with all the lists of decisions we've made, the meeting minutes in totality, because again, not our past practice. Some of the things that we discuss can be taken out of context or not reflective, or they're topics that are surrounding things that we would discuss in executive session, etc. So that's not going to happen. But what will happen is we'll continue to be transparent in terms of having discussions. We'll continue to make sure that anybody who wants to speak at a governance board session can do that. I think you'll see how to do that in the frequently asked questions that we've handed out. So you can speak or you can listen as an observer. Those are absolutely permitted by the discipline, and when we would continue to follow the discipline and continue to offer to do that. To date, we haven't had anyone who either wants to speak at a governance board meeting or who has requested that they be an observer in the meeting. If anybody wants to do that, please feel free to reach out and we will make that happen. In addition, a lot of the questions that people have are very, very specific, and they don't necessarily kind of rise to the level of frequently asked questions because they're just important to that person, or they're about something that is, a smaller part of the many, many things that we do as a part of the life of the church. Again, I will say I am always accessible. Any one of the members of the governance board are accessible. We will sit down with you. We will listen to concerns and perspectives. We will discuss different elements of church life to whatever level of detail you desire. You may get a different one of us based on what it is that's of interest to you, because we do have different focuses. But those kind of conversations and that kind of relationship, frankly, is what I am really looking forward to getting to more of. That's kind of how we did things before. That's certainly how you and I have always interacted, Dave, when our kids were growing up together. And I really want to make sure that we're doing that kind of interface as well.
I have an issue because we've started this board, and I totally respect every single one of you there. And Stephen, I love your messages and what happens. But since the board was created, it has been radio silence. And I've been active in the church. The people who come and they listen to the sermon have no clue what things are coming before the congregation. I was raised in the Methodist Church. I've been on more committees than I can shake a stick at. And I always felt like I was a part of, or I knew what was coming in the administration and the organization of the church. And what you have just told me, I think, is that you're going to take care of it all. And if I'm fortunate and I have a question, I can ask. But I don't even know what the issues are. I don't even know what you're addressing. And there's no, and I'm really engaged. So what about the people who are coming in our doors? And really, how are they going to connect? We have 7 people. Now, I know Beth's not here. How are those new people going to come in and know what's going on? What's important? How is that happening? I don't see it.
I think and I can try to respond for the governing board. I think all of us recognize that the communication wasn't perhaps as robust or at all as it should have been from the governing board earlier this year. It took us a little while to get ourselves organized and to really think through what we're doing. I think you'll find that changes going forward, and what we've committed to is what we're trying to have is a very fulsome, robust governance website where there are summaries of what's going on in all the committees, because the committees are really where much of what the life of the church is, so that everyone can look to that to see what's going on, with information about the governing board, because we recognize that there has not been the kind of communication, and people have felt left out during the beginning of the year. But I think we're working very hard to make sure that that doesn't happen going forward, that we've got a very fulsome and robust and transparent set of information out there. And I would really encourage you to look not at what the governing board is doing, which is important, but also at what all the committees are doing, because that's where much of the work of the church goes on, and that's what we're starting to post on the website now, so that everyone can see what that is.
I'd also add to that beyond the governance board and the 7 committees, the life of the church is really in the teams. It's in the outreach. It's in all of the things that touch people. This side is paper. This is kind of the business end. And I understand people want to know what's going on the business end. But when you talk about people, just the life of the church, I think that the team side of things is far more important than what we do here.
I think it's also important to just note that every major event that has happened in the life of the church, any substantive change from what was envisioned heading into this year, has been communicated directly and right away. That comes from the governing board, right? When we found out about the opportunity to have Reverend DuPont here, we were able to discuss it as a governing board, and that communique, if you'll go back and read it, is from the governing board and with their in mind, right? Any substantive change that has happened has come through that. When Jackie tendered her resignation and it was able to come back in a new way, we were able to communicate that right away and immediately. I want to point out, the governing board was approved at the end of January. We had to meet each other, begin to understand who we are, meet to talk about lawsuit issues that we couldn't discuss in this group, and then have just a few meetings to be able to get the communication under wraps. So I think it's important to recognize that this is a group of people who's worked really hard and dealt with some really hard things, not all of which are able to be discussed, but anything that's been a substantive change has been communicated right away to the congregation in as public means as possible. I think that's important. It's also important to note that the church council did not have this. We never had a meeting like this. We didn't have a part of the website. We didn't have a list of all of those pieces. That didn't happen. This is new, and the commitment, as you've heard them say over and over again, is that moving forward, this is how we're going to work. We're going to share as much. Anytime we get a question, we'll put it up. I mean, we got some questions, not all of which were kind, and we answered them, as many as we possibly could, to name the questions, right? Gone through them. So I'm just naming that. I know there's others who have questions that, yes.
But I just one more thing, because I know, so Dave and Lori, thank you, because you're voicing what others are talking about. So thank you for having the courage to speak the conflict, because not everybody does. I will say just one other thing is, you know, having been somebody just like you, Lori, who's been on more committees than I can shake a stick at, who's done all sorts of different things, but never was a trustee, right? You know, the way that I found out what was going on is typically I found out as we were meeting either in fellowship or in the gathering center. I don't think the pandemic has been our friend here. I really don't. And I think a lot of those just one-on-one, you know, just unplanned collisions, right, where I'm talking to Ann or I'm talking to, you know, any one of the other trustees, Bob or any of the others, helped me understand, okay, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about? Where are we going? In a really personalized way. You're absolutely right. We have not had the ability to do that. And we did spend the first few months of the year really kind of organizing ourselves to figure out what it is that we wanted to do while the pandemic was going on. So Beth's absolutely right. It did take us a couple of months to get our feet under the desk. I have worked very hard, as has everyone else in front of me, to have things not be radio silence. I do think also the nature of the communications and the tenor of the communications that come to you via electronic means versus looking in someone's eyes and talking to each other are different. They're frankly more confrontative. They're more combative. And we've tried to kind of absorb all of that and come back with measured responses to issues and concerns that are legitimate among all of the congregation. But please do understand there's a person on the other end of those questions that not you, Lori, but that are getting slung, and we're trying to get beyond that.
So I am Noel Nichols. This is my wife, Jo Beth Nichols. We have been sojourners, refugees from another congregation since when the culture changed. And you're doing really well. We have been to churches that have had great tragedies, but have no vision for the future, how they will recover from their problems. We have been to churches that are still locked in the past. We've sat and watched online worship services that were as bad as Catholic Mass. You've all watched Catholic Mass occasionally, just out of curiosity, right? It's hard transition. We're just not, as a church, we're not used to making our worship service look like TV, right? It's not snappy. It doesn't move fast enough. The sermon gets too complicated for TV mentality when we watch. But I think you're doing well, and we're feeling good about you all. And we're aggressive, you know. We decided on Sunday afternoon, and we bombed into a Zoom meeting, a Bible study from Asbury, and we had to scramble to get the password to get in. But the staff were very helpful, and the people in the Zoom meeting were very gracious. Oh, hello, who are you? So we feel good about you. And there may be stuff we don't know about, which is okay, but you have a good attitude, and you are an open, loving congregation.
I'm Dick Moncrief. I'd like to respond to Dave Kennedy's question around giving as a result of the world being part of our congregation. And last year, we received $90,000 for live streaming. The majority of that money came either from foundations or from people who are not members of the congregation. This year, it's around $50,000 so far, and the bulk of the non-members giving is not for the normal operational side of the congregation. It's for designated purposes, like the live streaming. So the congregation really, on an ongoing basis, has not seen a significant change in the level of giving from other than members.
We have a question from online. What is Asbury's stance on a woman's right to choose pertaining to the General Conference and potential split?
I think I know that one.
Okay.
As United Methodists, it makes us reluctant to affirm abortion. However, we recognize that the Bible is silent on that, and at this point, it is a woman's right to choose. Am I right?
Yeah, that's pretty close to the actual stance of the United Methodist Church. Not that we need another controversial thing to talk through, but to say the church does stand with a woman's right to choose, though recognizes that abortion is not the same as any other means of birth control. It calls upon the clergy person and the congregation to surround the persons who have to make that difficult choice, and recognizes that we affirm it, especially in those instances where the life of the mother is at risk in those times. So that's worthy of a whole further conversation, but I hope that answers at least some of the question here. And there's another one. Will there be Sunday school classes at the 9:45 hour as there used to be? This is from June Walters. The two offerings we have now are fine, but how about what we used to have also? I think the answer, do you want me to take that one? Sure, that's a program kind of question. The answer is we stand ready and are very happy to have any of the Sunday school classes come back, and we're open to that. I think the question that Barb Elting asked earlier about the new normal, I think we're trying to figure that out right now. And certainly, when we get to a stage where we're ready to expand back into multiple services, I think we will for sure keep in mind the fact that we need some time for the Sunday schools to meet. But we are absolutely in favor of having Sunday school classes, and this may be an opportunity to create some new ones and to have an opportunity. So if you have an idea about what that might look like or how you might be involved in that, please don't hesitate to let us know, because we'd love to have that opportunity.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Church. Going back to your question earlier about the website, I guess I'm oblivious. Is there a link on the website to news of the board or other groups?
Let me tell you a little bit about it.
Tell me about that, please.
All you have to do is go to our main Asbury United Methodist website. You'll see on the top right, there's what's called a little hamburger, which is just code for like a menu, 3 little lines. You click on that, you click on governance, and you will get just a bunch of good stuff. You'll get who we are, why we exist, what the structure of the governance ministry is, our entire board policy book, so every single policy that pertains to the board. You will have the ability to look into the activities of each one of our committees, and as my colleagues have said, really, most of the work happens in teams from a ministry standpoint, and a lot of the more detailed administration happens in the committees, so it's really good to check those out. We commit to frequently asked questions, which we update as needed. We received a lot of questions before this meeting, so you'll see that the frequently asked questions are a lot more robust than maybe they were this summer. And we also have the ability to have anyone who would like to send a message to Asbury First Governance, which goes right to yours truly, and then I triage those and respond to specific questions as necessary. I do apologize. Last week, I did not pay Google enough money, and my mailbox got full, and they turned off my mailbox. So I did miss a couple of messages, but I'm back in the saddle. So that's really what you can get online. And we're always looking for ideas for how we can just improve that channel of communications.
Okay, is this working? I have a question. On page 6, it's a little bit of an answer, which is excellent. When can we see a new directory? The last directory type one I have is from 2018. I think there was one in 2019. Is there a way that if you have a person you want to contact, that you can call the church or email the church and get an address for a person? There is.
The answer is yes. Call the church and you can get an address.
Okay, because I know Melody's gone, so is there like a...
Sure. If you just call the church office, there are a few exceptions. There are those that have requested their information to remain private, so I want to honor that. But with those exceptions aside, if they would normally appear in the directory, we'd be happy to share the information that they would like.
So I know they're working on it. Last time I talked to Melody, they were working on it. Is there any advancement in a directory, or is this a tough time to try to get that together.
Yeah, I can help you make sense. I mean, some of it has to do, as I think the answer dictates, that we had a switch in our database software. It seems like this would be such an easy thing to be able to do. For some reason, it's not. And so we are having to go through and make sense. And in particular, those who have asked to not have their information shared, that's the problem, right? When we press, it shares everyone, and that's not what we've agreed to do. So we're trying to just figure out a way to do it easily. Our prayer is that we'll have it soon, hopefully within the next month. I'm not putting Deb in a tight position. I know she's up in the booth probably scowling at me at saying that, but to say, I would guess that we'd have that within the next month. But certainly if you have questions, you can call the church office, you can email any of us, and we'll get to the appropriate information.
Okay, that's helpful. And I was thinking, I'm getting most of the information here. It's helpful having the microphones, but when people talk with masks, me being hearing impaired, I get maybe every other word, and that's okay. That's all right. That's just part of hearing impairment. But I was thinking, if we have a directory or something that we can connect with people, if they allow it. Yeah. I know we've been talking about communication, and that's vital. And I think I'm amazed at what Asbury has done since COVID came. It's been an experience, I think, for everybody, and wow.
Yeah.
But if there is some type of way that we can connect with people, even people that have disabilities, and maybe the directory, or maybe there's a way.
Sure. That is such a good point.
Thank you.
And to say, one of our hopes, and part of the reason why we went into this new database, which is just an upgrade for us, is because eventually we'd like to get into a place, if we can get all the privacy concerns sorted out, to be able to have everybody have access to real-time directory, so that you can go on our website and be able to see Janda's information if she chooses to share it, if you're a member of the church, right? So there's some steps that you'd have to get into there, but it'd be a good opportunity for people. So, and you could update your pictures and all those pieces so that we can get that. But it's certainly a possibility. That is a little bit further down the road. And while we're talking about communication, just allow me to say a thank you to Sarah Brubaker. You know, if you think for a moment about the fact that when this pandemic hit, suddenly, her job was already too hard for one person. When the pandemic hit, every single thing we did as a congregation had to go through her. I'm just naming, we are so lucky to have had her in this place, and I want to just name that and to say thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, do we have one on Slido? I can't. Unfortunately, I cannot read that. That's my 50-plus eyes.
For some reason, I can't get Wi-Fi standing up there. The new governance section on the website looks great. Lots of good info and easy to access right off the main page. Thanks, from Jim Carter.
All right, thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Appreciate the shout out.
And if you have questions about governance, please email governance@asburyfirst.org. Yes.
The conversation just a moment ago alluded to Melody Guadagnino and her departure. I believe you've made some changes in staffing in the office. Is that something that you could tell us about?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So some know that Melody resigned in September 1st, and we shifted to have Deb Bullock-Smith to move into the office manager role after that. And we had Holly Temming, who has been looking for more work and is already a member of the church and has been helping us throughout the pandemic with some of the extra communications piece to take on some additional time to be able to balance that out. Right now, it's not a full replacement yet for what her position was, but it's a way to get us a little bit further towards that. But other than that, there has not been any other substantive changes in terms of the office staff.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Cady, and I just wanted to take a moment, and this really isn't a question. There's a bigger question included in it, food for thought. But as you can imagine, my home 20 months ago shifted a bit with lots of late nights, conversations, influx of calls, text messages, emails, concerns, so many strategies and approaches to how we could keep our beloved Asbury First going strong through a set of unprecedented challenges. And so as I sit here today with Hannah and I look around the congregation to think of all of you, and I think of all of those people who are watching us at home, who love this church, who believe in the mission and vision and call that God has placed upon our lives, and that's why we're here. I would just remind all of us that we have an opportunity to give back and to be a part of the changes that are yet to be seen. And so if we're sitting here with thoughts of how we might be able to have a big part or small part in that, I know my heart is kind of on fire right now, whether it's about the directory or reaching out to those friends that we haven't seen. Now is the time. And so I just want to thank, obviously, everyone who is here, the pastoral staff, every member of this congregation for giving to the moment, to believing in the possibilities for the future, and to erring on the side of love. And so I think that this is also a call for those of us who wonder how we could be a part of the positive changes in the future. Thank you so much.
Any other questions, either via Slido or in the room? Okay, well, hopefully you've seen past our masks and sorry.
From KCB, I'm very worried about the pandemic, just wondering why the board isn't 6 feet away from each other, like you've asked.
Thank you, and we did discuss that, so we wrestled with that. At this point, guidance is not necessarily that you be 6 feet away from each other. We are all vaccinated and we are all masked. Most importantly, we wanted to make sure that everyone who is participating with us at home could see all of us. So we are trying to preserve all of the protocols that we need to.
And I would just name that, sorry, I'm trying to be on camera here. I would just name that the policy of Asbury First right now is in the chancel. Anybody who speaks from the chancel needs to be vaccinated, which is because the whole reason is because it's hard to maintain those 6 feet boundaries when we're in the chancel. That said, it's a point well taken, and it is certainly something that we're mindful of as we find our way forward.
Okay. Any further questions? What further questions? Thoughts? Oh.
Are still open to everybody. We never shut down. Music still goes on. We can sing the hymns from home. It's been incredible.
For those who weren't able to hear that at home, just Jean Strong is saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes.
Very appreciated. Thank you. So with that, as I mentioned before, we certainly as a governance board are committed to making sure that we're continuing those conversations and talking about what's important in the lives and mind of everyone in the congregation, whatever vehicle is most comfortable for you. We also feel that this is a format that we would like to continue, and we'll kind of wrestle with that and hear feedback in terms of the desired frequency of these get-togethers. And of course, in the meantime, I've said it once, I'll say it again, give me a call, love to talk to you. Thank you. And if we could just, close the meeting with the singing of the doxology. Sound good?
How about we stand
Okay.
as we're able? And if you're at home, we encourage you to stand as well. Oh, Jean, thank you so much. Thank you. Praise God. Thank you.